Hey guys, I'm back with another video. This is posted after my last one, so we'll see how this style plays out. I'm curious to see if maybe it gets more or less views, how it plays out. Just kind of covering commanders that I want to talk about, and not necessarily just the popular ones or the straightforward ones necessarily. But anyway, today we're going to talk about one of my favorite newer legendary creatures. A commander deck I did have. I ended up switching it over to Selesnya just for color reasons. But I want to talk about a very strong commander today. Light-Paws, Emperor's Voice. So, Light-Paw, Emperor's Voice is one colorless, one white, legendary creature, Fox Advisor, 2/2. Now, there's a lot to unbox here in this. So, whenever an aura enters the battlefield under your control, if you cast it, you may search your library for an aura card with mana value less than or equal to that aura with a different name than each aura you control. Put that card onto the battlefield attached to Lightpaw, Emperor's Voice, then shuffle. So, every time an aura enters the battlefield under your control, which is important because there are ways to bring back multiple auras. There are ways to really play things like Darksteel Mutation that enters the battlefield under your control technically, and you're able to enchant another creature, but then because of that, you get to search for something. Obviously, there's a lot of Voltron strategies with this, and that's what I'm going to be going for. Another important part is you search your library for an aura card with less than or equal mana value. It's very interesting because there are a lot of very, very, very strong mono white auras that you get to search up. And as soon as you cast one, you get to search for a second one, and it just goes right on to Light-Paws. It's just put that card onto the battlefield. So, there's a lot of times where maybe you can play an enchantment that isn't very scary. Like, maybe you're just playing a 3-drop that gives it +2/+2, if that's really what you wanted to do. If people don't counter that, when it enters, you get to just search for all the glitters and put it onto the battlefield, so they can't even counter it. Obviously, there's ways to still interact, but it makes it harder to interact. It makes it a very explosive deck, and Light-Paws is only 2 CMC. So even if you're playing by normal pace, on turn 4 you could have almost lethal on people, just depending on how the deck plays out. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So first off, big and buff is an important part of this deck. Getting as much damage as you can out as fast as you possibly can. So all that glitters, one colorless, one white, enchant creature, it's an aura. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. Ethereal Armors, 1 white. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control and has first strike. And Battle Mastery, 2 colorless, 1 white. Equipped creature has double strike. So instantly, playing something like All That Glitters, searching for an Ethereal Armor, placing it on there, is going to buff your commander like crazy. Obviously, Battle Mastery is a way to give it double strike. Instantly is like doubling its overall power. And these are all things that you can tutor for. So even if you play a Darksteel Mutation, you can search for an All the Glitters and place it onto Light-Paws for free. So next is so many cards. It's just about card draw, basically. So Sage's Revere, 3 colorless, 1 white aura. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each aura you control that's attached to a creature. And then enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each aura you control that's attached to a creature. So another very strong card. Draw you a ridiculously large amount of cards. Plus, when it enters, you get to search for a 4 or less and place it for free on the Light-Paws. SRAM, 1 colorless, 1 white, Dwarf Advisor. Whenever you cast an aura, draw a card. You're not going to play any equipments really. You might run one equipment because there is one that gives +1/+1 for each aura, but you're not going to run any vehicles. There'd be no reason to. And then Core Spirit Dancer, 1 colorless, 1 white. It gets +2/+2 for each aura attached to it, and whenever you cast an aura card, you may draw a card. So this is another nice kind of way to go with this is you can run other cards that also would get very buffed up And instead of placing it 100% on Light-Paws, you can build up a core Spirit Dancer to be a secondary commander creature, that can swing in. It could really set you up for a situation where maybe you're able to knock out 2 people at once instead of just buffing Light-Paws and only getting through with 1 person at a time. You are running a Voltron commander, and it's mono white. So protection is key. So Spirit Mantle, 1 colorless, 1 white. Equipped a creature is going to get +1/+1 and protection from creatures. So if Spirit Mantle is on your commander, congratulations, you're probably killing somebody. Hyena Umbra is 1 white, and it's an aura. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 in first strike, but enchanted creature also has totem armor. So if enchanted creature would be destroyed, instead remove all damage from it and destroy this aura. So this is a really nice one that if they... I mean, obviously there's ways to get around it, but it makes it very hard to get rid of your commander. Basically, they have to target it with something like a Path to Exile where they're going to remove it, or they're going to have to bounce it back to your hand, basically. But to get around that kind of stuff, you have cards like Benevolent Blessing. For 1 colorless and 1 white, you have a flash aura that when it enters, you choose a color. Enchanted creature has protection from the chosen color, and it doesn't cause auras or equipments that are attached to it to fall off. So, if somebody does go to bounce your commander back, go ahead and flash in Benevolent Blessing. Now all of a sudden that you're going to pick Pro Blue, they're not going to be able to do anything about it, and it's going to be Pro Blue for the rest of the game, which is going to make it pretty difficult for your opponents to get around if that's what they need to get rid of yours. So now we're going to talk about bringing them back. There's like I said, Light-Paws says whenever an aura enters the battlefield under your control. So there's a couple ways to really get around that where you're able to do some funky stuff. So Mantle of the Ancients, 3 colorless, 2 white. It's an aura. You attach it to a creature you control. When it enters the battlefield, you return any number of auras and or equipment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to it. And then enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each aura attached to it. So this is absolutely insane. This has got to be one of the best cards in the entire deck. Because if you have 8 auras because your commander died in the graveyard, you play Light-Paws, let's say you just pass, you go to your next turn, you play Mantle of the Ancients, you're going to play all 8 of those auras, you get to search your library for 8 more, all attached to your commander. You're guaranteeingly going to kill somebody unless they have a response to bounce it back. But again, there's a lot of protection and different things that you could run with this color. I don't know. It's going to probably close out the game. Spectral Seal is 1 colorless, 1 white. It gives a creature +2/+2. But when it's in your graveyard, you could pay 1 and a white, exile it, and return another aura or equipment from your graveyard to your hand. So getting something back like Mantle of the Ancients is key. Or you could get back that thing that gives protection. Maybe you give it flying so it can get through. Maybe you want to bring back in all the glitters and just buff them. You can do that. And then Retether is 3 colorless, 1 white. For each aura, return each aura from your graveyard into play. Only creatures can be enchanted this way. So another way like Mantle of the Ancients to be able to do it, but not on an aura. And then Control, obviously, is another big part of this deck. You are running auras, you're mono white. There's a lot of things that you could do. So these are the 3 that I liked the most because I think they're a little more interesting. Dark Seal Mutation, you enchant a creature, it's an insect, it's a 0/1, indestructible, loses all types and all other abilities. So there might be even a situation you want to put this on your commander later, but I doubt it. I think that you just play this on somebody to hose them down on something that's bothering you, and then when it enters, also go search for a 2-drop. Winds of Wrath, 3 colorless, 2 white, destroy all creatures that aren't enchanted. They can't be regenerated. This is just a nice one that's going to destroy everything except for your commander in most situations. If not, you're at least going to clear off the board, and somebody's going to be open for you to close in with Light-Paw. And then last, I'm going to talk about single combat, 3 colorless, 2 white. Each player chooses a creature or planeswalker they control, sacrifices the rest. Players can't cast creature spells until the end of your next turn. So this is going to create a situation where you're going to be able to most likely get through with your commander and or swing at someone and hit them. It's going to be difficult for people to get around because they also can't cast spells until the end of your next turn. It's just It's a really good one. Obviously, there's cheaper, there's 4 drops like Wrath of God that you could use, but I like how these ones kind of protect our commander and destroy the board. And then these are my 3 favorite cards in the deck, period, that I really like. Light of Promise is 2 colorless, 1 white. It is an aura that gives the creature, whenever you gain life, put that many +1/+1 counters on this creature. It's not hard to find an aura that gives lifelink, and as soon as Light-Paws has lifelink, you're basically going to double its power every single time it deals damage, which is just insane. Not to mention that you're also going to gain all that life, which is going to put you out of range for most people to just knock you out. You're going to be looking, other opponents are going to be looking to end the game by an infinite or something else if that's the situation. Ajani's Chosen, 2 colorless, 2 white. It's a cat soldier, and whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a 2/2 white cat creature token onto the battlefield, and if it's an aura, you can attach it to the token if you want. The thing I really like about this is it's also whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield. So when you bring back those 10 enchantments or whatever from the graveyard and put them back on Light-Paws, you're going to get 10 cats, and then you're going to search for 10, and then you're going to place those, and then you're going to get 10 more cats. This could really just close out a game itself under the right circumstances. Not to mention that even if you're not returning a bunch, you're still going to play an aura, search for an aura, and you're going to have 2 cats enter then, which are nice blockers. And then Sigardi's Aid is 1 white. It makes it so all of your auras have flash, basically. The equipment part doesn't really matter that much, but to be able to cast your auras at flash speed is insane value. Insane value. So I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. I think that personally, Light-Paws is one of the strongest mono white commanders. I know that there's a lot of ways that you can go with it. I just personally like the Voltron style with a couple creatures that can help out. There's obviously a lot of other cards. This is mostly just a general run through of what I thought of the deck. But there's plenty of interesting cards that you guys can include in this, and I would appreciate if some people put some in the comments down below. Let people know, because people might want to build Light-Paws and they might want some interesting tech that they could have. So, alright, thanks. Talk to you guys on the next one.